Coming up, North Korean aircraft flew dangerously close to South Korean territory amid heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula on Thursday night. South Korea swiftly responded by scrambling around 30 of its own aircraft. The IMF chief warns of a darkening outlook for the global economy with rising recession risks, saying the IMF will next week downgrade its forecast for 2.9% global growth in 2023. Plus, dozens dead, with the majority of them children. A daycare attack in Thailand leaves the world in shock. The death toll could continue to rise as many are still in hospital. Good morning. Welcome to New Day at Arirang. North Korean aircraft were spotted flying dangerously close to South Korean territory last night. The action's the latest in a string of provocations from North Korea amid heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula. South Korea swiftly responded by launching around 30 of its own aircraft. Our unification correspondent Han Sung-woo leads us off this morning.
12 North Korean military aircraft were detected flying in formation near South Korea's so-called special surveillance line, at one point even flying south of it, in what appears to be Pyongyang's latest show of force. According to a South Korean military official, the unusual occurrence took place at around 2 p.m. on Thursday, and authorities speculate the planes in question had also engaged in air-to-surface shooting practice. It's believed that 8 fighters and 4 bombers flew for approximately an hour from Goksan towards Hwangju, both in the North's Hwanghae-do province. In response, South Korea instantly dispatched 30 of its own combat aircraft, including F-15Ks, a reaction the official described as of overwhelming might. The North's aircraft, however, reportedly did not cross over the tactical action line, a virtual line that South Korea established about 20 to 50 kilometers north of its airspace to keep an eye out for possible emergencies. Observers view the move as another form of retaliation by the regime against South Korea, the United States, and Japan's recent trilateral military exercises, including their missile defense drills the same day, their anti-submarine drills last week, and South Korea and the United States' bilateral warplane exercise on Tuesday. The same day, Pyongyang launched an intermediate-range ballistic missile over Japan in a major provocation. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
As North Korea continues to ratchet up tensions in Northeast Asia and beyond, leaders of South Korea and Japan discussed their joint response over the phone, and President Yoon also met with the commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. Our editor-in-chief Moon Gun-young reports from Seoul's presidential office.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida agreed during a 25-minute phone call Thursday afternoon that a clear message should be sent to North Korea that its provocation would face consequences. Seoul's presidential office said the two leaders strongly condemned North Korea's recent missile tests as acts of serious and grave provocation that threatens international peace. Seeing eye to eye that such reckless provocations must come to a stop, the two leaders decided to cooperate to sternly deal with North Korean provocations. Earlier in the day, Kishida said Pyongyang's continued ballistic missile launches were absolutely intolerable. Yoon and Kishida also acknowledged that the two countries must work as partners in addressing various global issues and agreed to continue their open and frank discussions, including that on security matters. Meanwhile, amid escalating tensions over North Korea's missile tests, South Korea's commander-in-chief met with the commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command at the nation's top office on Thursday. President Yoon's meeting with Commander Admiral Yoon Aquilino followed Wednesday's redeployment of the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan to South Korean waters, only days after it had left after a naval exercise with the South. President Yoon thanked the head of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command for his cooperation and requested that the Indo-Pacific Command work closely with South Korean forces to effectively implement strengthened extended deterrence enforcement measures. Aquilino said the return of USS Ronald Reagan demonstrated U.S.'s firm commitment to the defense of South Korea, adding he would again rush to South Korean waters on the U.S. destroyer in the event of North Korea's 7th nuclear test. North Korea fired 6 rounds of ballistic missiles in under 2 weeks, including its most provocative weapons demonstration since 2017, firing an intermediate-range missile over Japan on Tuesday. 문건영, Arirang News.
The head of the International Monetary Fund says it is once again lowering its projections for global economic growth in 2023, citing higher risks of a global economic recession. Kim Yo-sun has the details.
Warning of further global recession, the IMF chief said it will slash its growth projection for 2023 for the second time.
So what is happening is we have downgraded 3 times since October last year our growth projections. Last time we brought 22 to 3.2% growth, and for 23 projections was 2.9%.
Speaking during a curtain raiser address of the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank on Thursday, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said that the international body estimates that countries that account for about 1/3 of the world economy will experience at least 2 consecutive quarters of contraction beginning this or next year. She said the IMF expects a global output loss of about $4 trillion over the next several years.
Overall, we expect global output as a result of all this to shrink between now and 2026 by $4 trillion. To give you a sense what is $4 trillion, this is the size of the German economy. Gone.
The IMF chief also highlighted that the world has lived through shock after shock during the past 3 years or so, including the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. She added that going forward, she expects that things are likely to get worse before getting better. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
The U.S. Commerce Department is reportedly set to announce fresh curbs on exports of semiconductor technologies to China. While details of the new regulations have not yet been released, Reuters reported that they will target China-based producers of DRAM and NAND chips. The new move is also expected to impact South Korean chip makers like Samsung and SK Hynix, which have chip manufacturing facilities in China. The Chinese embassy in Washington on Thursday slammed the expected rules for suppressing development in emerging markets, calling them, quote, sci-tech hegemony. With inflation for daily necessities still running above 6%, Koreans are looking for ways to save money. Now, buying in bulk is a good option. Many families are doing just that online and at big warehouse stores. Those living alone have other strategies. Shin Se-byuk zooms in on this trend.
As inflation bites, consumers are turning to more affordable options. Bulk buying. Many people are flocking to big box retailers to score better deals on everything from toilet paper to frozen food.
I prefer shopping here because I find buying in bulk and portioning at home is cheaper than purchasing smaller portions at nearby grocery stores.
This place offers a lot of items at affordable prices.
Discount rates vary depending on items and time of year, but these mega stores do offer some major savings to shoppers.
If you were to buy this much coffee at a grocery store, you'd have to pay almost $34 or a little over $2 per pack. But if you buy bulk in here, you pay $17.6, saving almost 50%.
Thanks to the great deals that this warehouse store franchise has to offer, it is rapidly expanding its size. Sales at this chain jumped over 6% in August on year. The same goes for online markets. Data from online grocery store Market Curly shows that in Q3 of this year, sales of bulk items doubled on year. The most popular items were frozen ready meals that can be easily stored for a long time, such as fried rice and dumplings, which saw sales jump 4.7 times. Another online shopping mall revealed similar data. According to We Make Price, sales of bulk shelf-stable items jumped over 120% between late August and late September. Most of them were household essentials such as toothpaste, soap, and detergent. Another trend that shoppers, especially smaller or single-member households, are moving toward is buying goods that come in smaller packages to keep their costs down. From half bottles of wine to portioned fruit, these smaller-sized packages provide economical options for consumers on a tight budget. Skyrocketing inflation is now changing the items that stores have to offer and the way consumers shop. 신세벽, Arirang News.
The United Nations Human Rights Council on Thursday rejected holding a debate on China's alleged human rights violations against Uyghurs and other Muslims in Xinjiang. Of the 47 members, 19 countries voted against a Western-led motion. 17 voted in favor, including South Korea and the U.S., while 11 abstained. It's the second time in the Council's 16-year history that a motion has been rejected. The president of the World Uyghur Congress expressed disappointment, saying that he will never give up, while the director of the International Service for Human Rights also called the vote shameful. The move followed a UN office report in August that identified what could be serious human rights violations against Uyghurs in China's far western region. This year's Fashion Code show kicked off on Thursday. It's an event organized by South Korea's Culture Ministry in order to promote the country's culture through fashion. Our Kim Jung-sil went there to check out the latest trends.
The Korean show Fashion Code kicked off its 2023 spring-summer event on Thursday and did so with its first in-person catwalk since the pandemic. Hundreds of spectators and people from the fashion industry from Korea and overseas came to watch the show. Fashion Code allows young and creative designers to show off their work and seize business opportunities. This season's theme is a video game. The aim is to grab the attention of the younger generations.
These items are some of the fashion highlights this season. They're collaborations with the popular video game Overwatch. Now this one, for example, is the training gear for the character Reinhardt.
The designers of these items explain the inspiration behind their work.
Hangul is such a pretty written language, so I wrote mercy in Hangul in cursive, as you can see here.
The character Diva reminded me of free-spiritedness, so I made a knitted sweater that's comfortable yet colorful and incorporated our brand identity.
The event organizer said South Korea's Culture Ministry promotes the event because fashion has become a big part of Korean culture. 91 young and creative fashion brands are showing their work this season, and many overseas buyers came in search of new items that best represent K-culture.
In fact, we are looking for new designers, new and up-and-coming designers. Again, in Indonesia, the fan of Korean, especially K-pop, is very high. So in terms of fashion, the way they dress, of course, there's influence on it,
So I think Korea is a very creative country. They have always something new. And to see that the fashion is still energetic and many new ideas here coming.
I had that feeling that Korean fashion influence on another fashion weeks too, and to another designers, to Western designers. So it's just unique thing about Korea, about Seoul, and I like it.
There'll be more catwalk events, designer showrooms, and even a discount market for people to enjoy before the show comes to a close on Saturday. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Coming up over the upcoming holiday weekend here in South Korea is World Mental Health Day. The COVID-19 pandemic forced people to isolate, exposing many to mental health risks. And a new term was even coined here in South Korea, Corona Blue, to describe those feeling depressed due to the lack of social activities during lockdowns. And while life for many is returning to normal, current events in the world would hardly put a smile on faces with war, climate catastrophes and spiraling inflation. So how can we as a community work to improve our mental health? Let's connect with Dr. Elizabeth Schnobrick, a licensed clinical psychologist from Minnesota. Good evening to you.
Hello, thank you.
How has World Mental Health Day and associated events contributed to global efforts to tackle the mental health stigma and indeed put the spotlight on mental illness?
Yes, I think that the most important impact of World Mental Health Day is information. And I believe information is power. In order to end the stigma of mental health worldwide, we need to be providing accurate information to everybody that mental health is a problem that affects many, many people in this world. And most people know somebody who is affected, and they may not even realize it.
Right, and let's talk about what the community can do. What can a country provide or do for its people when it comes to mental health?
Yes, I think there are many things that a country can do. First and foremost is to work as a country to make it a priority to end the stigma. It's so crucial that a country work together to stop hiding and stop pretending that mental health isn't a problem. One of the things that can be done is creating policy that prevents businesses from discriminating against somebody with a mental health issue. Another thing is to create a public campaign in order to educate the public on what are signs of mental health, where can someone go to get help, and the importance of getting help. I think another thing that would be really important is recognizing that the more we keep mental health quiet, the more we increase the likelihood of somebody feeling that there is no other option other than suicide. And being able to talk about these things openly and publicly is really the first step in changing what's becoming a worldwide health crisis.
Right, and being able to talk about it, like you said, for someone to do that, the individual has to realize what's going on, right? And you've also worked with a lot of South Korean patients throughout your career, and often individuals might pass off behavior patterns in family or friends as they just simply not being they might just look at it as they're not in a good mood. What are some signs or signals that might identify that a person is actually in a need of professional help to deal with mental health issues?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think one thing, in addition to looking for the warning signs, is not being afraid to ask the questions, not being afraid to feel like you're bothering someone or burdening them. But really, if the person is acting concerning and some of the warning signs I'm going to list may be present, to be sure to ask those questions and not wait. So some of the things you can that you might notice is being sad or moody for long periods of time, longer than 2 days or 3 days, usually upwards of 2 or more weeks. A sudden calmness after a period of being moody or sad or depressed. Withdrawal from others, withdrawal from activities that were previously enjoyed, changes in personality, changes in sleep patterns. They may be sleeping longer, sleeping less. They may change their appearance. They may stop caring what they look like. They may stop showering regularly, may wear dirty clothes, stop worrying about hygiene. They might engage in potentially dangerous or risk-taking activities. They could have had a recent trauma or life crisis such as divorce, loss of a loved one, loss of a job. They may be talking about feeling hopeless, feeling like they're a burden, feeling like they don't have a reason to live, feeling trapped, feeling stuck. They may make preparations. They may actually start giving away items. They may be talking about death. They may have written a suicide note. They may actually threaten suicide. They may actually say those words that they're feeling like they have no reason to live or that they might as well die. These are all potential warning signs. And if any of these warning signs are present, or if there's even a hint of a concern, it's always best to err on the side of caution and ask the question and talk to the person and not be afraid to ask.
Right, and I think it's all very important for everyone to know so that we can all help each other. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For a look at the news from around the world, we now turn to our Matthew Ashley standing by at the Arirang newsroom. Good morning.
Good morning, Doyon.
Let's start in Thailand, where dozens have been killed in a deadly gun and knife attack.
Well, that's right. At least 36 people were killed on Thursday afternoon local time. At least 22 children and a pregnant woman are among the fatalities reported so far, and the death toll could rise. According to local authorities, another 10 people were wounded, with 6 of them serious. Now, using a firearm and a knife, the attacker targeted a daycare center in Thailand's northeastern town of Uthai Sawan. He then returned home, reportedly killing his wife, his 2-year-old stepson, and then himself. Authorities have identified the suspect as a former policeman who was fired on drug-related charges in June. At least 22 people have died and dozens are missing after 2 boats carrying migrants sank in the Mediterranean Sea. Now, both boats sank in stormy weather on Wednesday local time, with rescue efforts continuing into the next day. Greek authorities say 16 people died from one of the boats near Lesbos Island, where Greek rescuers were able to save 10 people, but 12 remain missing. Now, the second boat sank near Kishida Island with 4 people killed and 10 missing, while 80 were rescued. The boats reportedly began their journey from neighboring Turkey, a common launching point for migrants trying to enter Europe. US President Joe Biden has issued an executive order pardoning those convicted under federal law for simple possession of marijuana. Now, the move announced on Thursday will wipe the conviction off criminal records of thousands of people, making it easier for them to secure housing or employment. The pardon covers possession for personal use and does not include those charged with growing or possessing the drug with intent to supply. Biden has also called on state governors to issue their own marijuana pardons, as most simple possession convictions are at state level. Now, in a statement released by the White House, Biden said that, quote, "No one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana." Now, Greenpeace members have floated a mock pipeline along Prague's Vltava River to protest the EU's reliance on fossil fuels. Written on the pipeline are the words, "Putin's bloody gas." It was floated along the river on Thursday near Prague Castle, where EU leaders are holding a 2-day summit. Meanwhile, in London on Thursday, over 30 climate activists from the group Just Stop Oil glued themselves to roads near Trafalgar Square. The group is calling for the UK to not issue any new oil or gas licenses in the North Sea.
Good morning. The chilliest morning temperatures of the season so far arrived this morning in the capital, and highs will also go up to similar figures to yesterday, hovering way below the seasonal norms. Easterly winds are dropping heavy rain of 20 to 30 millimeters an hour on the east coast this morning, with heavy rain alerts issued along with strong gusts. 5 to 60 millimeters of rain is in the forecast there. Inland regions could have passing rain during the day, while the rest of the country could see a mixture of sun and clouds. Now, afternoon highs will be similar to slightly lower than yesterday in most parts. Seoul and Gyeongju will be only topping out at 19 degrees Celsius this afternoon, Daegu at 21. And it could be the chilliest day of the season for many parts of the country today. Nationwide rain is the forecast on Hangul Day on Sunday. Then another band of rain will pass through central regions in Jeollado provinces on Monday, with an expected high of just 14 degrees Celsius here in the capital on the temporary holiday. With that, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. We'll be back next week after this long holiday weekend. Please stay with Arirang News for more updates throughout the day. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and take care.